I'm not sure if this story belongs specifically in the subreddit or not, and it could be explained with logic, but it's still creepy as hell when I think about it sometimes, wondering what really happened. So back in the day when I was around 12-13, one of my close friends had a birthday party sleepover in her country house. We were 4 girls in total, not including the girl's little sister who was like 6 years old, and we spent the first day just celebrating the birthday and hanging out with family at the nice country house. This was kind of a fancy house with a nice and spacious guest house a bit further away on the land where we were supposed to have our sleepover. When it was time for bed, we got comfortable in the guest house, with some of us sleeping on mattresses on the floor. Some of the girls were a bit scared by the fact that they were staying in that guest house and wanted to be able to lock the door, which the parents were a bit hesitant about at first. This is one of those locks you can open with the key both ways, so I guess they were afraid that we would lose it or lock ourselves in or something like that. But at last, we were allowed to lock it. It was a very classic sleepover with candy, horror movies, and gossiping. I don't remember when we fell asleep, but I remember waking up in the middle of the night noticing that it was kind of bright outside. This was in the middle of summer in Sweden, which means that it gets bright outside around 3 a.m. in the morning. One of my friends was still awake, watching Harry Potter without audio, and I stayed up a bit and watched it with her before falling back asleep. Next day, it was time to go back home again, and we spent some additional time hanging out at the main house before we started packing up in the guest house. The first one to finish my packing, so while I was waiting for my friends to finish, I sat on the sofa where I had left my digital camera on the sofa table. During this time in my preteens, I took a lot of photos and wanted to document my life, so naturally I had a lot of pictures to go through from that weekend. I decided to go through the pictures on my camera while reading, and that's when I discovered something very odd. In my camera album, at a random spot in the reel of pictures, there were at least 15 to 20 of me and my friends sleeping. They were taken from a variety of high and low angles, with and without flash. Group pictures where you could see all of us from far and close up, and individual shots of our faces close up. The fact that there were so many pictures of us with so much variety and with some pictures being so close up made me incredibly freaked out. Now, I'm not proud of myself, but I was also like 12-13 years old and I'd never experienced something like this before. So what my little preteen brain decided was the next big step was to get someone detached from reality and just delete everything on my memory card, including whatever pictures I had on there from some other time. Of course, right after that, I realized what I did and started to freak out and cry, which alerted my friends. They wanted to know what happened, and when I told them, they understandably got mad at me and didn't believe me. And then they started to freak out too when they realized that I've never been a prankster and I wouldn't be able to act upset that well. And this then became a whole situation where the parents had to calm down 4 hysterical kids down, while reassuring us that they had not pulled a prank on us. In the end, my friends decided not to really believe me and we never spoke about it ever again. Now, this could be absolutely just a prank going wrong by her parents or their little sister, but the fact that we had to lock the door, they would have had to get up in the middle of the night and then spend time taking pictures of us with the flash and close up in our faces, which is something that I don't believe they would have done. Her little sister was very short and young and could have not pulled off taking so many pictures with different angles, etc. Plus she was freaked out too. And I have to mention once again that it couldn't have been any of my friends because we were all sleeping in the pictures. Again, this just might be a bad prank by her parents and they decided just not to admit it. But it still feels incredibly creepy to think about that someone or something took pictures of us while we were sleeping. And most of all, with my camera. I don't believe in things that aren't proven or that I can't see with my own eyes. I've been interested in the supernatural and paranormal, sure, but I personally never believed in ghosts or things like that. I think that's changed. I don't know how this works, and I won't even begin to think that I do. I would explain this to the best of my ability. About 15 minutes ago, I saw a face. I just joined this Reddit community 2 minutes ago because I was so freaking scared. I did that involuntary inhale, hand over my heart, pulse skyrocketing, all that jazz. It scared the ever-loving hell out of me. I am an 18-year-old female currently living in a double-wide trailer home with my mom and her boyfriend. It's 11:17 at night and my trailer room doesn't have a built-in light, so you need to plug in lamps for it to work. So I was putting my 2 cockatiels away by the light of the stand-up lamp. I turned off the lamp with the switch that's built into it when I look over, and I swear to the heaven above, I saw a face peeking around the corner. Not a peek around, see me and go back, no. It was watching me, and it drew back once I turned and glanced at it. It was humanoid in shape, but it was a dull orange, maybe lightly glowing. It wasn't a shadow, but it wasn't a true figure either. It was floppy, for lack of better words. I couldn't really tell the age or gender, but I assume it was my height if standing straight, accounting for lowering itself to look around the doorway. This trailer has had a number of sightings from my sibling and my mom's boyfriend's daughter. My sibling says that she heard a voice talking or calling her name. My mom's boyfriend's daughter ran into my room in the middle of the night freaking out and saying along the lines of, "There was a person outside the window. Then they came into the room and they just stared at me." Now, I don't believe in the impossible, but I've seen it. I want to learn about this. I need to know what this means or what it is. And I swear to the heavens above, this isn't some attention post to get some likes or a story. This was absolutely real to me and my sister and to my mom's boyfriend's daughter. I need answers. Please help me. So I went on a pretty late walk into the night and walked over to a baseball sports complex. It was really dark and I went around exploring the place. So I walked to a glowing vending machine and I took a picture. And then when I turned around, I saw a very black tall figure, like easily over 8 feet tall. I'm 6'5", so he had to be really, really tall. He was approximately 2 feet away from me looking down right at my face. It had no facial features, its face was really, really smooth. Now, I'm borderline schizophrenic, so I thought it was just one of my hallucinations, but they usually disappear after staring directly at it for at least a few seconds. So I stared at it for at least 5 and it didn't go away. So I kind of froze and began walking away, and then I started to run. I called my brother, and when we met, we both started going back home. My brother said he saw it too, so that rules out the possibility of me seeing things. We both made it home safely, and now I'm trying to figure out what exactly I saw. The internet is calling it shadow people, but I thought it'd be best to ask the community for advice. Could someone please explain to me what exactly I just experienced? This story happened when I was in 6th grade, probably around 2008. My family and I just moved into an apartment. Dad was working in Alaska as an ice road trucker, so he was out of the house more than he was in. At the time, we were living in Texas. This might not scare you or creep you out, but to this day, this memory does not sit well, and I've tried to make sense of this as much as I could. One evening, I was sitting in the living room on the floor with my back against the couch watching TV. The apartment only had one entrance, which was in the living room, and my parents' bedroom was behind the wall where the TV was. So in order for them to leave the house, they'd have to first go through the living room and around the couch and through the front door. As I'm sitting there, my mom opens her door, halfway pops out holding a red popsicle, like an ice cream popsicle. She's smiling and waving me to come to her room. I remember being so weirded out by this because she wasn't talking, and she always talks. But she just stood there halfway behind the wall, signaling for me to come, as if the popsicle was surprised if I did. Even then, I remember thinking, how did she get that? The kitchen is here, which the kitchen is connected to the living room. And so I said, no. I usually listen to my mother, but this time I felt off, so I denied. Not even 2 minutes later, the front door opens and my mom walks in on the phone talking to my grandmother mid-conversation, bringing in groceries from the store, and I didn't even understand. How did she do that? There's no way. It even denies trying to pull a prank on me even today in 2024. The more I think about it, the more it doesn't bode well with my spirit. And this is not my story. I'm simply sharing it because it's intriguing. This was spring break of 2010. My buddies and I decided to camp out on an island at a local lake. One night as we were cooking food and drinking beer, a canoe floats by with one guy in it. He asked how we were doing and we invited him to our island for grilled meat and beers. Being in South Arkansas, we naturally assume that everyone is friendly and want to hang out. His name was Kurt, and he was super friendly, but he seemed to be really sad. We asked him what was up, and he replied, "Oh, nothing really. It's just that my friends are probably worried about me." He looked at me and winked. "They'll find me soon enough." And that literally still haunts me to this day. Everyone liked Kurt and was noticing that it was getting dark and he had been drinking, so we offered if he wanted to stay with us that night. He declined, saying that he had to get to where he was going, and he seemed very adamant about that. I asked where he was heading, thinking maybe we can give him a ride on a jet ski or something. Kurt ignored the question and said, "You boys don't know how lucky you are." And then he hopped on his canoe and left. We didn't think much about it. The next morning, we woke up early to do some fishing. As we were fishing, a police boat pulls up. The officer asked if we were part of the search party that found the body. We obviously had no idea what he was talking about, so he told us a story about a young man in a canoe that disappeared last week. Apparently, divers found his body at the bottom of the lake 2 days before. The young man's name was Kurt Clark. This was so freaky for all of us that we all packed up and left the camp that day. This is one of the witnesses' testimonies as to what they've experienced. This comes from the actual online newspaper article with information about the deceased. Searchers on Monday recovered the body of a teenager who drowned when his canoe capsized on Lake Wasika last week. They found the body of Curtis Peyton Clark, 19, in about 43 feet of water around 3 p.m. after previous attempts to locate the corpse failed. Garland County Sheriff spokesman Lieutenant James Martin said, "Clark was from Helena, West Helena. He and a friend were in the water last Thursday during windy weather, which caused the canoe to capsize about 200 yards from the shore. Both of them tried to swim to safety, but Clark went under." Arkansas, Pages 9, on March 30th, 2010. Good evening, everyone. This is Yuri K, and this is the end of the video. Please leave a comment and let us know your opinions on the matter. If you happen to like this content, please check out our other videos. Make sure you like and share amongst your friends and family to help our community grow. You happen to be new to this channel? Please make sure you subscribe. It's free, and you can always change it in the future. You have some terrifying story suggestions? If so, make sure that you send it to my email, fearofthedarkstories@gmail.com, and I'll feature it in a future segment. But you guys stay safe out there, and remember to always be afraid of the dark.